Kickboxing Life Stories today, we've got a British kickboxing legend, a former British and European champion and world title contender, and he's been competing since the 70s, 80s and 90s, an amazing fighter, Mr. Phil Glover. Phil, welcome to Kickboxing Life Stories.
Hi Neil, yeah, pleasure to be here.
So before we start today, Phil, just got to say how well you're looking. With your permission, I want to talk about a little health scare that you've had recently, but you're looking really well. Pleased to see that.
Yeah, thanks.
So, taking it back to the start, Phil, because on Kickboxing Life Stories, we want to hear everything. We want to hear about your childhood, your school days, your family life. What can you tell us about the young Phil Glover growing up?
Well, as a kid, I was never into fighting, nothing to do with martial arts. I'm not competitive or anything. I had a good childhood, but you probably have the same problem as I did, the ginger hair.
Yeah.
That led to me getting picked on all through my childhood, I was getting bullied. So I think that gave me that lack of confidence, and it carried on all the way through. I had good parents. They fetched me up really well. But like I said, my school days, at times they were a nightmare. Go to school and always getting picked on. Something would always happen where I'd get picked on it nearly every single day.
The small ginger kid.
Yeah, the small ginger kid. Yeah, always getting pushed around, called names, ginger nut and all that stuff. I mean, now it's looking back, it's funny, some things, it doesn't even bother me now, but
Ginger's cool now. It's gone full circle. Ginger is actually cool now. People back in the day, it wasn't cool to be ginger.
Yeah, well, I mean, ginger's cool. You got Ron Weasley, haven't you? So I mean, Ron Weasley makes it all nice and cool now. Harry Potter and all that. So yeah, it's good. Ed Sheeran,
Ed Sheeran, of course.
Yeah.
So did you have any brothers or sisters looking out for you? Have you got any siblings?
I've got two brothers. I was the eldest one.
Okay.
Yeah, so but like I say, I wasn't a fighter when I was a kid. I used to come home and then just go out, play my bike, like most kids do. And back then, obviously, you could stay out all day, as long as you're inside to your mum and dad.
Yeah.
You stayed near your house and that was it. I used to go out on my bike and play. I had a good childhood. Really.
And where did you grow up? Where was it?
Where? Well, originally I lived in Doncaster. I'm in Rotherham now. I lived in Doncaster right up to getting married, really, when I was in my 20s. So, I lived in Doncaster. I lived in pretty much the rough areas around Doncaster as well. But when you're living in a rough area, you don't sort of see it as being rough.
You're part of it, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's when you look back on it and you think, wow, things that happen, but yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, my childhood were okay. I had a good time. Like I say, just the bullying side, mainly at school, and sometimes when I was out playing as well, they always pick on the ginger kid. I had all that, but little did I know, as time went on, that would pay off for me. That sort of, I think, made me who I were to become later on.
Yeah.
And I think fighting wise, martial arts and all that, I didn't really get into things until my early teens, about 13, 14 year old. And
had you done any sports before that point?
No, I was never a sports person. I think played bulldogging, playground, where you're racing around, chasing each other and that. Probably playing tig, a bit of rounders. There's a story there with the rounders. I actually got my nose smashed with a rounders bat because I was stood behind one of the kids with a bat, waiting to catch the ball if he misses, and I stood too close and he whacked me straight in the nose.
Okay.
I think my nose got broke. Never went to hospital, but my nose always had like a bit of a bend on it. But it served me well later on when I was fighting, you see, because my nose then were pretty solid.
You were conditioned.
Yeah, so pretty conditioned. We've got conditioned with rounders bat.
So your passion when you were younger, before martial arts, was it just the average kid out on the street doing your thing?
Yeah, that's all it were. I think fighting wise, the only thing that I loved watching Muhammad Ali, because obviously when I was a kid, he was the main man then, and that's one thing I did love. I loved watching Muhammad Ali boxing. You know, that was my first sort of influence. And then I think when about 10, 11 years old, my uncle, he got me into going to watch wrestling. You know, Big Daddy and
yeah.
You remember all that stuff?
Yeah, I do. Saturday afternoon, yeah.
Yes, Saturday afternoon, yeah, watching telly, World of Sport.
Yeah.
And that's how that sort of set things off. I think I watched that, and I liked the wrestling and that, you know, and then the biggest thing what set me off with martial arts was Bruce Lee, and also the Kung Fu series on TV, you know, with David Carradine.
David Carradine, yeah.
White and Kane.
Yeah,
you know, as soon as I saw that was it. I was hooked, and I've been hooked for life now. That's all it's ever been, martial arts for me. So the big influence for me at the beginning was Bruce Lee, and watching Kwai Chan Kane, you know, with it in the temple, and he gets those tattoos on his arms, you know. I loved it.
How did you find yourself in a martial arts club?
Well, again, down to the bullying. I tried martial arts. I went to a karate club when I was 14 years old, and I went there to obviously help me defend myself against bullies at school. But when I went there, I found bullies in the karate club, the brown belts. Obviously, they were up and coming black belts. And
do you know what this sounds like, Phil? This sounds like the script to Karate Kid.
It does, doesn't it?
It does. Daniel said it does.
Yeah. You know, and the karate club, our game, the brown belts just knocking us about, you know. But that's how it were back then. It was pretty brutal in the old karate clubs back in the 70s. I mean, you had no mats on the floor. You know, the instructors, if you didn't do things properly, they'd give you a good kick or they'd punch you. You know,
mercy is for the weak.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't handle that. I thought, no way. And so after about 2 or 3 lessons, I actually, I just couldn't do it. I went home. You know, it put me on a downer really. And then I found there were some books out there. I think you're a bit too young for this, but there's a guy called Bruce Tegner, and he had a series of martial arts books out where you could learn from the book step by step.
And how old were you at this point?
At that point, I was still 14, 15.
14, 15.
So I was doing that for about a year and a half, 2 years. And I was practicing every day just from a book. And, you know, I was obsessed with it. And what happened, I found a Kung Fu club opened up in Doncaster teaching Lao Gar. And I went on their opening night, and there were loads of people there. And because this is your mid-70s, you talk about 76 when I went, it was also part of the Kung Fu boom, you know, the movies.
Yeah.
All the Kung Fu films out, Bruce Lee and everything. And so everybody wanted to do Kung Fu. And the place was, this church hall was packed out with people all waiting and signing up at these tables. And there was a black guy teaching the class, and he looked so good, and it was really cool. And I was going to join the week after. I was going to turn up, and then what happened, I bottled out. I just couldn't do it, you know, because lack of confidence was still there, you know, from the bullying at school. And I didn't go. And then a few weeks after that, I got attacked. 4 or 5 guys jumped me off when I got off the bus. And I fought them off. I actually did one of my kicks, what I'd learned from the book. I did this kick on one of them, knocked him flying, and some of them ran away. And it was just a bit of a scuffle. They went away, and then I thought, I've got to go back to that Kung Fu club. And so I went back, I think about a week, 2 weeks later. There was a different instructor then, the black guy I saw before, he'd gone. Anyway, I joined, and I started doing Lao Gar. So I started my first Lao Gar lessons 1977.
And who was your first instructor then? Can you remember?
I had a guy. There's a guy there called Glassford. I don't know his second name. I only know him as Glassford. Really big, tall black guy. It was brilliant. I trained with him for quite a while. And I later found out the black guy who was running the club when I first ever went, it was the well-known Steve Babs. You know, wow. I could not believe it. You know,
legend.
Legend. Yeah, and I ended up in later years meeting up with Steve, and you see him at shows and everything. The Lao Gar, I enjoyed it. And I was getting pretty good at it with sparring, and I loved it all because it was like actually doing real life Bruce Lee. You know, you're doing all the moves and stuff, and then I loved it. As I got better, I wanted something more.
Did you go through the grading system in Lao Gar?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did go through the grading, but I went up to brown.
Okay.
And I think a lot of people go through this stage where you want to get to black belt, and then when you get so far up, you start changing. You start having different thoughts and changing your mind, and that's how it were with me. I think it's because I wanted directions, you know, think different ways to go, and
so were you looking outside of the box? Like obviously you were you were a martial artist, when you like all styles of martial artists, or all styles of martial arts, should I say? Were there any other outside influences that you were looking at the time? Because it wasn't readily accessible back in the day, was it?
No, it wasn't. No, I mean, we kung fu. The kung fu I did, the Lao Gar. What is it? One of the main instructors, chief instructor for South Yorkshire, was a guy called George Wellington, and he was in Sheffield. And he came along once to do one of the gradings. And there was just something about him, like a bit of an aura. He was so fit. He was so fit. He wasn't a massive guy. It was just like a black version of Bruce Lee in a way. You know, like his muscles and really, really well toned physique and that. And it's just how he were very soft spoken. And I ended up joining up. He advertised a full contact club. Back then they called it full contact, they never called it kickboxing.
Yeah, full contact karate.
Yeah, full contact karate. The karate side I hated because to me it weren't karate.
It wasn't, was it?
It was kickboxing. But you know, nobody called it kickboxing back then, it was full contact karate. But George actually opened one up in Sheffield at a place, his gym what he had there, and I meant to go to the first session, and again I bottled out. I didn't go.
Even after your kung fu training, so the confidence still wasn't there.
Yeah, because obviously I knew back then the kickboxing when it was out in the 70s, they were pretty scary because everyone always kept thinking someone's going to get killed here. You know, they're going to get killed. These kicks to head and everything.
Yeah.
So everyone were a bit cautious, and I went to the second session. And there was only me and one other guy there. Apparently, the first session, a couple had to be carried out, you know, because they'd let them do the sparring. Yeah. And they got carried out, you know, and so they didn't come back the week after, a lot of them. There was only one other guy and me. And I trained that first session with George, and it was a really tough session, you know. He was doing a lot of circuit training, and then we did kicking a bag, you know, punching and that, and it was all new to me this way, actually eating a punch bag.
And do you know where George's history lay? Where, I mean, because full contact was like relatively new at the time, wasn't it? Did he ever compete, or who was his instructor? Do you know?
Yeah, he originally trained with Master Yao, you know, Jeremy Yao, who does the Lao Gar. But yeah, the full contact side, George just set up on his own doing that. He got fought before himself. But George was one of these he always worked out at box. You know, he didn't just do everything by the book. He could work out at box and he could do all sorts. And when looking back, I think I was the guinea pig, really. You know, because I was like his first fighter.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, I mean, in the first 6 months I was training with him, it was only me actually turning up. So I was literally getting like private lessons every time I went training, you know, and then every now and then we'd have somebody pop in, but
Yeah.
they would never come back. So yeah, it went on for quite a while, and then I ended up with a training partner. I had a guy called Gary came from. He lived in Barnsley. He was a lot bigger than me. He trained for quite a while, so we got on really well. And mentioning Gary, I still keep in touch with him today. I actually found him on Instagram. He's living in Thailand now.
No
I
way.
could not believe, over 40 years ago, and he got in touch, and we're really good mates on Instagram. So yeah, me and him, we used to beat the crap out of each other, you know, every session. But yeah, good times, you know. And then
And stylistically, did you find like the full contact was more your thing than the traditional kung fu?
yes and no. I still enjoyed the kung fu. I think it's because when I sparred at the club, I could handle myself against anybody. It didn't matter how big they were, you know. I could pretty much beat them at the club as well.
Yeah.
I could sweep the big guys on the floor and everything, and I was comfortable with either one, really. But I just love the. I think it's the excitement of full contact. It's taking it to another level. You know, you're not just tapping each other. You're actually getting hurt, and you're more like like a real fight. You know, I think I'll have to test it myself. I think that's what it were.
And around that time, was there a lot of full contact competitions, or was it just the training?
No. There wasn't too many, especially in the Yorkshire area. I think, and there weren't many clubs as well teaching full contact.
Right.
There wasn't many at all. I actually had my first fight in 1979, and that was in Barnsley. There was a place called the Londoner, like a big pub in Monk Breton in Barnsley. And when I had my first fight, I actually did a full day at work. I got home probably about 5 o'clock. You know, had some quick food, so I had my tea. I had to catch 3 buses to get to the place where I was fighting. I mean, how many fighters would do that nowadays? You know,
No.
yeah. So I had to catch 3 buses to get to where I was fighting, and I thought I was really fit for my fight. I've been doing all my push-ups and sit-ups and all that. But you see, back then, nobody really trained properly. You know, we all thought we knew how to train properly back then. I think the only ones that did have any sense of training were people who maybe come from a boxing background, you know, building up stamina and stuff like that. I mean, basically, a lot of us just did loads of exercises like you would in your traditional martial arts.
Yeah.
It's a bag for a few rounds, and then
Jumped in there.
yeah, jump in, and then you'd be absolutely knackered after about 1 minute, you know. And I went into this fight.
Can you remember his name? Can you remember your first opponent's name?
I'll never forget him. Yeah, I'll never forget his name. His name was Wayne Partington from Manchester.
Okay.
I think it's some sort of kung fu style. And I remember my first fight because when I went in, I was that nervous and conscious, I wouldn't even take my top off. I fought with a sweatshirt on.
No way.
There's no way would you do that nowadays. It's suicide, that, you know. And I wore a sweatshirt, and I remember us touching gloves when I went in, and the pub it was even. I mean, that's when you had people smoking then indoors, and everyone was drunk, and but the atmosphere was fantastic in Barnsley. It's an amazing atmosphere. But yeah, I went into it, and then next minute I'm on the deck. I've been put down with these punches. I thought, wow, what was that? And carried on, and I got put down right, believe it or not, they didn't even stop the fight. I got put down 5 times in the first round.
No way.
And the second time, I think I got put down another 3 or 4 times. And I just kept bouncing back up, like probably something from Walking Dead, like a zombie. I just kept bouncing back up. And went on to the 3rd round. I got put down again a few times. And then obviously the other guy won. He won easy. And I just could not believe how hard people would get it in that ring, And I didn't know what to do after that. The reason I took the fight is because it was a test for myself. I wanted to prove something, because I've been bullied all the way through school, and I just wanted to prove that I could actually do something what's tough. And after that fight, I weren't sure what to do, and I went back the week after to train again with George, and we just carried on training as normal. And George got another fight set up for me. He was putting on a show of his own in Sheffield, and he said, "Do you want to fight first?" And because he wanted me to fight, I just did what he wanted, because he was mean stuff. And I just agreed. I said, "Yeah, okay." And I took another fight. This was again, I think, 79. And I had the fight this time. It wasn't even in a ring. It was on just an open floor. There was no mats down. It was just a wooden floor. No mats, just a square he was in. It was all marked out, this square. And I beat the guy this time. I beat him easy as well.
How did that feel? That first victory?
That felt good. It restored that bit of confidence. I felt really good having me first win. In my second fight, I got my first win. And then after that, I had some more fights. Well, my 3rd fight, I lost. My 4th fight, I lost again. And then I met up with another one. Was John Everard from Barnsley. Now, John Everard at that time was ranked number 2 in England. So this was
after 4 fights and 3 losses.
Yeah, after 4 fights, my 5th fight was John Everard. What happened? He should have been fighting that night, and his opponent, I think he either pulled out or whatever. He didn't turn up anyway. And John Everard, he was smaller than me, but very stocky, and he was well known for being a bit of an hard man. And he actually was walking around the pub, going from table to table, asking lads if they want to fight him. And you're talking really big lads. He would take anybody on, and nobody would fight him. I knew what was happening, and in my head I was thinking, "There's no way I'm fighting John Everard, no way." And he came up to me and asked me for a fight, and I said, "No, he's too good for me, I was scared stiff. And then what happened? They offered me 15 quid or a pair of Brutus jeans. Because Brutus jeans were pretty smart back then, and he said, "You can have one or other if you're fighting." So I agreed to fight him for 15 quid. So I joke about it. It's like my first pro fight, 15 quid. And
it's more than they get in there, Phil.
Yeah, I went in and I did really well. Surprised myself. I thought I'd get knocked out. It didn't knock me out, but we had a really good tear up. John was a pretty rough fighter. I remember some of the things we did back then. You could do throws then, you see. You had to do 6 kicks per round, but you could also hip throws.
Right.
And I remember at one point in the fight, John got hold of me and he threw me. And as he threw me, he sort of fell over on me, and he deliberately, I know he did it deliberately, he sort of laid over my face, and I couldn't breathe. And I thought, he's suffocating me.
And what weight was this guy? What weight was he?
It was about 9. We'll be about 9 stone, 9.5 stone at that time.
And what were you at? Were you comparable in weight?
Yeah, okay. About the same then. Because you just weighed. You just turned up for a show. Back in them days, you'd turn up for a show, and a lot of times you'd turn up, you'd all get weighed, and then they just pay you off with somebody around your own size, and that's how it worked. Like sometimes you didn't know you were fighting until you got there, depending on how many people turn up to have a fight.
And these are the good old days, all right.
Yeah, the good old days. Yeah, looking back, there's still magical days. Yeah. I mean, the fight after John, I ended up going to Manchester fighting at Danny Connor. I don't know if you remember Danny Connor. He had a shop called Oriental World in Manchester.
I remember the shop. I don't remember him.
Yeah, Danny Connor run the shop. It was a very well-known shop. Only small, but all top martial artists went there to have a natter with Danny Connor. He was a top man. Re-promoted shows at the Rotherham nightclub in Manchester. And so we went there, me and George. And again, it's one of the situations where you all just get together and they pay you off looking, size by size and that. And the guy I fought then was Sandy Holt.
Sandy who?
Sandy Holt, yeah.
Sandy Holt.
He didn't have the Mohican then.
Master Skens, Jim, wasn't he?
Yeah, Master Skens, yeah.
Brilliant fighter.
So, yeah, really good fighter. And so we fought, back then, obviously they were fighting kickboxing rules.
Oh, you'd moved over into the low kick now at this point?
Pardon?
You'd moved over into the low kick?
There was still full contact.
Still kicks above the waist?
Yeah, there was nobody doing like low kick kickboxing then. It was either some people would be fighting Thai or be fighting full contact. You didn't have low kick kickboxing then. But what the Thai fighters did is they, obviously, we all know that they kick with the shins.
Yeah.
They wear the boots, but they didn't have the shin pads on when they fought, a lot of them. So obviously, nobody knew that they were using the shins every now and then when they were throwing all those kicks in. But yeah, when I fought Sandy, and Sandy beat me easy. It never hurt me. It never hurt me in the fight, but I can honestly say he did beat me easy, getting me all these kicks everywhere. He was a brilliant kicker. But I met Sandy years later and was telling me that they nicknamed me Peanut Head because when he was kicking me in the head, his boot actually split. He got a split in his boot, and that's because he'd been kicking me that hard in the head. It never hurt me, but he just split his boot open, and so he used to call me Peanut Head after that. But yeah, there were good times at Rotherham nightclub in Manchester. There were a lot of top shows there. But yeah, after Sandy, I think I had a few more fights. I won some then. I won some more fights, and then it was like it's a miss each time. I'd like win maybe 2 fights, lose 1 or 2, then win a few more, lose again.
How did that affect your confidence, Phil? Because obviously you're coming into the sport already, and you're not the most confident guy in the world.
No.
And you're having hit and miss wins and losses. Was it more about the competition with yourself kind of thing, the confidence to get in there?
I think so. Yeah, I think I'm competing with myself, and in some ways, I think losing my first fight was a good thing. I learnt about loss straight away, rather than winning loads of fights and then getting beat and then, getting face on because I've actually lost. I lost right at the beginning. So in some ways, I learnt about loss quickly. Then, pick myself. I was used to picking myself up and carrying on. And to be honest with you, when I first started, I never had no intentions of being a champion or anything like that. It was more about testing myself. That's why it worked. It's because of all the bullying I had at school. Yeah. I wanted to prove that I could be tough if I wanted to be.
And was your confidence improving at this point? Because that takes some bottle stepping in, with the likes of Sandy Holt.
Yeah, I think after Sandy, I was getting a bit more confidence, but I was still I should have been a lot better than what I were, confidence-wise. I think that did let me down a lot in fights. When you walk into the ring, you have that stare down at the beginning. Things like that, I give it away straight away. I could not stare somebody. I'd be looking around all the time, and it's funny because that's how I were. I could not look somebody in the eye, and I think it took me about 15, 20 fights before I sort of clicked on and started doing things like that myself. I started playing the game. Yeah. It took me a lot longer than I think a lot of normal people would do. It took me probably twice as long to learn about the psychology of fighting and that. But yeah, my career at the beginning was up, down all the time. Like after the fight with Sandy, I then got a chance to fight in Dublin. I went to fight in the European Wacko Championships.
Okay.
In Dublin.
What year was that?
That was 1981. George Wellington, I was still training with George at the time, and we both went over. And you fought in what they call the European Cup. And I think the first fight I fought a guy from Switzerland. To be honest with you, he came in, he had the black belt on, but he didn't look that cool to me. And I actually beat him pretty easy. I'd go in with kicks, I just kept kicking him. And I think the fight got stopped on my kicks. I just kept putting him down. So pretty pleased with that. And then I had a second fight, I think it was later on that day. This were the finals, and I fought the German champion, and he was a different kettle of fish. He was southpaw, very tall, and didn't smile much either. And the first thing I got put down were a left cross, just banged me, and he actually lifted me off the floor. I always remember, and carried on. I got beat on points. I didn't get knocked out or anything, got beat on points. But yeah, that were a bit of a learning curve for me as well, and I also, that was the first time I met Alfie Lewis as well.
Okay, Alfie the Animal.
Alfie Lewis. Yeah, so that was good. It was great watching him, and it was also a good thing to learn what other champions are like as well. Because I was around people like I think there was Dev Barrett, Humphrey Brooms, obviously got a young Alfie Lewis. There are all these top fighters there, and then the different countries as well. And I think I was like in awe of everybody, being around all these top fighters. And that all sort of made me feel that, I'd come back home and I was like, it didn't matter about losing the finals. I'd
fighting in the Europeans,
people, and it was just a fantastic time, great memories. I got back, but then again back to losing again with fights. I ended up fighting Howard Brown, and that was when Howard Brown was British, European, and world champion, and he could beat everybody in the world.
Howard was fantastic, wasn't it?
He was so classy. I fought Howard at the Tower Ballroom in Birmingham. It was fantastic there. I turned up for this fight, and I was thinking I'm going to do really well.
So you had high aspirations of beating him at the time?
I don't know about beating him. I just meant I sort of like talked myself into it, it's like doing self-hypnosis in a way. I was just telling myself that, yeah, you can beat me, you can beat him. So I had that in my mind up until getting in the ring. And then once I got in the ring, well, I can't beat him. And it's like, he stopped me. I didn't get KO'd, but I just got battered. They ended up stopping the fight in the second round. And to be honest with you, like, no disrespect to Howard, because we're good friends as well, but like after the fight, I overheard him in the changing room. I overheard him saying how easy the fight were, because he was a bit cocky at the time as well, Howard, and he'll probably admit to it, because I think it's part of being confident at times. I totally admired him as a fighter anyway. But yeah, I overheard him say about how easy the fight was, so that put me on a really big downer. You know, after the fight, I was like thinking, oh no, this is the end, and I can't carry on. You know, he's beating that easy.
But no shame losing to the likes of Howard Brown. I mean, Howard, one of the best that ever did it.
Yeah, I mean, Howard that was the show I was on. I mean, I fought Howard Brown. I mean, George Wellington, my instructor, he fought Godfrey. I mean, Godfrey were at his peak as well. You had people like Steve Taberner fighting on there, the Wigan Hammer. He fought Winston Greenwood. There were just all these big fights on that. I think Steve Babs, I'm not sure if Steve Babs was on the same show as well. Fighting somebody from America, Carl, I can't remember his second name. But yeah, it was just being on a show like that with all these top fighters, you know, it were amazing. Again, they're just magical times, you know, and you look back on them.
Truly was the golden era, wasn't it, of full contact kickboxing in the UK?
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, after this fight with Howard, obviously I'm on a bit of a downer, and my confidence got knocked down really bad. And then I got offered a fight in Manchester again against one of Master Toddy's lads, a guy called Mark Hurst.
Yeah.
Now, Mark Hurst, I'd done a lot of reading up on him. Obviously, back then you didn't have social media. Everything was done through magazines.
Yeah.
And the magazines were always about 3-4 months after something's happened, you know. So, and you had to depend on what somebody wrote down in a write-up. Now, that write-up could be made by their friend.
Yeah.
You know, it went always the fight. What went in the write-up was something it might be changed around.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had a lot of kick KOs as well, did Mark Hurst. So at that time when I went into the ring, I think I'd been doing boxing then as well. I'd been training with boxers, which started helping me fitness a lot more. And yeah, Mark Hurst was a bit of a tough cookie as well. He tried knocking me out the first couple of rounds, and I just kept my hands up high all the time. And then I spotted a weakness with him, because you know the Thai style, it can be pretty square on.
Yeah.
And I've always been pretty good with my lead leg side kick, so I kept catching me side kick to the body, and then I'd be finishing off with a right hand to the body as well, to kind of weaken him. And it started to pay off. You know, he got a standing 8 count. I think I went 3rd or 4th round. But we went to finish it with a 5-round fight. We got to the end, and apparently I'd not done enough kicks during the fight. I like to kick a lot, so
yeah,
it was waste time disputing it. So yeah, it ended up being a draw at the end.
But you felt you'd won that fight?
I felt I'd won, yeah. I felt I'd won. But again, it's one of them that I just take it on the chin. I never argued. I never kicked off in the ring. You know, I mean, if that's the decision they've made, then that's the decision they've made, you know. And I think a lot of people can show a lot of disrespect, you know, arguing and kicking off in the ring. They just make themselves look fools.
Yeah.
So I've always just took it on chin and just, you know, gone on to the next fight, you know. But yeah, that was a tough fight. And then I had some more. Let's have a look at these. I've gone written down here. I had to write the fights down. Yeah, I think after Mark Hurst, I had 1, 2, 3. I had about 3 wins, and then I fought a guy called Segi Robles. I don't know if you know that guy.
I'm not familiar.
Segi Robles was lighter than me. I mean, I fought around 9 stone. Segi Robles was about 8.5 stone. I went to fight him. I forgot what it were now, but I remember him getting on the scales, and he had like ankle weights on, and he had weights on his wrists. I think I was just to bulk his weight up on the scales, and we were only little, and we went in doing pretty well first round. I was catching him with my side kick, and then all of a sudden, bang from nowhere, just caught me like I think a left hook or a right hand, and I was on the floor. There was blood everywhere.
Jeez.
Yeah, I got stopped. I got stopped in that second round. So that was another great fight I took on, but again I got beat. And then after that I started winning again for a few more fights. I think I ended up I fought Tony Canning from Ireland, from Dublin. There's a guy called George Canning who used to promote Waco in Ireland.
Yeah.
And it was his nephew, and he was a pretty good fighter actually, and a lot taller than me. And came into the ring with a black belt on, which never impressed me when someone has a black belt on, because that gives me more incentive to beat him. And at this time, I think my style was just coming out then. George, my instructor, he was working on more of an American style kicking, because back in the early 80s, there weren't many people doing the flicky kicks like Bill Wallace and all that.
Right.
I think Waco had a big impact on us over here. Like with the European fighters and the American fighters coming over, I think they changed our style to a certain extent. They helped change our style, and we were. I was developing the side kick with the lead leg, and my round kick. I was just doing like a big, strong round kick, and. For this fight, this was around 1983. I was feeling pretty good as well. Feeling pretty sharp.
It's amazing because you're speaking there about all these fights that you've had. You fought Sandy Holt, you fought Howard Brown, you fought in the European Championships, and it was all over a space of about 3 to 4 years. It wasn't a long time, was it?
Yeah. It's some of these fights. Like some years I'd have maybe 5-6 fights in 1 year. I've been kept fairly busy. But the thing is, I think because I fought on the Waco shows, suddenly then I'm getting to fight these better fighters. I felt like at times I was put in too early, especially with Howard. I think I'd have preferred to have fought Howard maybe a few years later.
Yeah.
A bit too early for me. Yeah. But getting back to Tony Canning from Ireland. He was the Irish champion, and we were a 5-round fight. And I went out, touched gloves, and then straight away was on the attack. Came at me, and I just covered up and let him throw a lot of punches and kicks at me. I was hoping he'd tire himself out, which he did. And then I came back every now and then. I just blasted him with a couple of kicks, and then let him attack me again. And I kept playing that game for a couple of rounds, and then I just knocked him out. I couldn't believe it. It was like, I just saw it and just bang, hit him with the right hand, and he was out cold before he even hit the canvas.
Jeez.
And this was my very first KO, my first proper KO. And it was like mixed feelings. If anyone's seen the footage, you'll see me in the corner. I'm doing about 15-20 star jumps. Don't know why we're doing star jumps. Don't even ask me, but it just
elation of the win.
Yeah, the adrenaline rush. I'm just doing star jumps, and then I was looking down at him, and then I thought he's not moved, and then it was like reality sort of sinking in. Then I was thinking, oh God, I hope he's all right. I hope he's not dead. Then luckily he came round, and so that was a big thing for me, having my first KO.
Do you think, Phil, that you were too nice in these early years?
I was in early days for quite a long time. I think probably my first, maybe 25s. I was just too nice with people.
Yeah.
If we'd been had a bit more aggression and confidence as well, I think would have won a lot more by knockout as well. Because I was pretty strong. It's just the confidence thing. I lack confidence. I weren't aggressive. I was quite happy just winning my fights on points and enjoying myself.
But to be honest, Phil, it's like that's a lot of the appeal. you know, the fact that you've had to come through adversity. You've had to like fight through a losing record to get to where you got. And I think the belts and the trophies and the wins are brilliant, but the story of the confidence and the bullying and, you know, you coming out on top in the end, that's like an incredible story. It's like an underdog, a Rocky story almost.
Yeah. So it's been like that, you know. I think as time's gone on, I think that's what's given me that strength. You know, I've been used to always like I pick myself back up and just carry on. I make myself stronger for the next fight. You know, it's like I've got this book here at the side of me with me, a lot of my fights in there. Well, I wrote down the names of my opponents and everything. And in this book, I remember back when I was training, whoever I fought, after the fight, if I got beat or even if I won, I would write down the strengths and weaknesses of me after the fight. Then, you know, before the next fight, I would improve on my weaknesses. You know, if I were like making mistakes with blocking or kicking, I would go back to the gym and I would work that specific area. You know, I'd do that with every fight what I had.
Proper student of the game, and I love this.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, what also hard when I had that fight, and then was it? I think it come to about 19. Let's have a look now. 19. Yeah, 80. About 85. I got asked to fight in Wackos again. You know, at Wembley, and I think by that time I did about 15, 16 fights, and went to represent England again at Wembley, Wackos, and this time I had to go down with the TGB team, you know, Kenny Walton, Kingstone, them guys. They were really good. I got a lift down with them, they took me down, and I got there and I weren't sure was going to be fighting or nothing, but what I didn't know was pretty much everybody in the building knew who my opponent were for my first fight, and it was a guy called Troy Dorsey.
Troy who?
Troy Dorsey, yeah.
Ow.
I was the only person in there who did not know who Troy Dorsey were.
Did he have the big curly perm at the time?
Yeah, he did, yeah. I said, who's Troy Dorsey? And so he's one of the American guys. And I thought, well, it'd be pretty good then if he was American. But they were like, everyone were acting like we're fighting some sort of god. And they said, you can't miss him. He's got really big, long, flowing hair and that, you know. And anyway, I saw him in the. They were fighting in semi-contact and full contact at the show. They were taking part in both ones. And I got a chance to see him fight semi-contact before I actually fought him later on. And even in the semi-contact, there were guys who were just dropping him. You know, they were just laid out on the floor. They were dropping me like these spinning kicks and that, spinning side kicks and punches. And it didn't scare me because I knew I had to turn up fully on the day, 100%. You know, put everything into it. I didn't want to make no mistakes. So yeah, we got geared up. You only fought 2 rounds in the Wackos, and I don't know if you remember the old safety. The name of them. There were safety gloves and that, and head guards. I think it was Jun Ryu, the Korean guy.
Okay, so yes, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah. Dip foam.
Yeah. I mean, they must have only weighed about 4 or 6 ounces, the gloves. And we had head guards on and that, and I remember touching gloves with Troy, and then I walked forwards, went to use a kick on him, and he just sort of moved to one side, sort of glided, and then kicked me at an angle. And I'm not kidding, I have never been hit so hard in all my life, even to this day. That was the hardest kick I've ever felt off anyone. He literally just catapulted me all the way across the ring. into the corner. I could not believe it. I thought, wow, I've got something to do here now. And but anyway, we carried on, and I did quite well against him. Funnily enough, this guy went on to be like IBF World Boxing Champion back when they were real champions.
Yeah. Fought all the ties, didn't they?
Yeah. And I did well with him boxing wise. I was doing okay with him. He never hurt me. He couldn't hurt me with punches. It's just his kicks. His kicks were unbelievable. You know, I got put down during the fight, and the referee were counting me. And I look at the referee. I'm shaking my head. I'm all right. I don't know if you, back then when they fought, they were like those plastic sort of mats, you know, in the ring. They weren't canvas. They were like plastic. They're dead slippy. And so I was complaining because I was getting countered. And end the fight. Yeah, Troy beat me. But yeah, it was weird. You know, looking back, a few years later, I was watching something on TV, and that's that guy I fought at Wembley, you know, Troy Dorsey, and
winning world boxing titles.
Yeah, winning world boxing titles. Yeah, so I mean, then after. So
already within 20 fights, you fought 3 legends at least.
Yeah. I mean, yes, Sandy Holt. Yeah, Howard. Yeah, then got Troy Dorsey, and then like after all that, then going into your mid 80s now, 85 onwards. It's in England at that time we had the CKO, which is the Contact Karate Organisation, I think they called themselves at the time, and they were pretty good really. They were like the main ones in England, you know. Now at this time, I'd parted with George Wellington, my instructor. We not fell out or anything. It's just that I was going on a different path. You know, I was getting more involved and interested in like low kicks and Muay Thai stuff as well. You know, whereas George was more into the semi-contact and full contact. So I sort of slowly parted ways. And
you were evolving at the time, though, weren't you?
Yeah, I was evolving. Yeah, and I went my sort of way, and I ended up getting my own fights then, which is not always a good thing, because then people can take advantage, you know, of me not being used to promoting myself and that. I had what did I do? Oh yeah, I had a fight. We were getting married, me and Sandra, my wife, was getting married, and I got offered a fight at the weekend. We was getting married on the Monday, and I got offered a fight at the weekend on the Saturday. I was also on a course with Falau Gar, you know, doing Kung Fu, doing that for a week. I was doing a course in the Scarborough as well, so I ended up taking this fight down London at short notice.
Risky.
I fought this guy down there called Johnny Clark, his name. I remember he was British champion at the time. And I got beat again as usual. Gave him a good scrap. Had a black eye.
Oh dear.
We went back home, got married on the Monday with a black eye. And
how did that go down with your wife, Phil?
She was okay. It went as bad as somewhat. I've had some bad ones in the past, but it weren't too bad. But we both got treated really well down there. You see, we were down London, and we got treated very well after the fight. They were all singing, you know, we're getting married in the morning and everything, and it was just a good atmosphere. I mean, like I say, I got beat, but to be honest with you, I really enjoyed the fight. It was a good fight, and because I've had losses and wins ever since I started, it was more about the fight to me. I wasn't bothered about what the announcement were. I was more bothered about just the fact that I had a good fight and I enjoyed it, you know. But yeah, after that, my other fights in the 80s, I was fighting for the CKO, Contact Karate Organisation.
At this point, were you self-trained?
I was pretty much self-training then. What we're doing were, I was doing a lot of boxing actually. I would train with pro and amateur boxers at the same time. I actually had a go at pro boxing because I was out to work at one point, and the guy Jim was training at, he said to me, Phil, he says, why don't you ever go some pro boxing? He'd been trying to talk me into it for years, and I weren't interested because I like kicking people, you see. And so yeah, it caught me at a time when I was out to work, so I said, yeah, okay, yeah. So I got this fight set up for 10 weeks' time, but that did not happen. He phoned me about a week later, says, how are you feeling, Phil? I said, all right. He said, no. He said, what's your fitness like? I said, oh, I'm fit. He says, what, fighting fit? I says, yeah. He said, well, how do you fancy fighting at Glasgow this weekend? So I just said, yeah. So took a guy on, went to Glasgow, fought a guy over, I think it was 4-round fight, a guy called Taffy Mills. Apparently he'd done really well in his career as well. He had like a good amateur career, and I think he had about 16 pro fights. I was having my first pro fight, mate. And I was doing really well, actually. I cut him up. I've never cut people when I've been doing kickboxing. I cut both his eyes open. His face was a right mess. And then the last round, I was doing really well. The last round, my trainer told me, he said, look, Phil, he says, you need to get stuck in more. He says, you're dancing around him. Well, I thought I was doing well dancing around him because I was picking him off. So I decided to do what my trainer told me to do, got stuck in, and that's how I lost. I got beat on points, you know, so, but you know something, I learned a lot from that fight because I realised how much damage the boxers take to the head just using the hands only. You know, kickboxing was, I've kickboxing fights and hardly have a scratch on me, you know, because I'm always pretty skillful when I fought. And I never fought again boxing. I'm more interested in kickboxing fights, you know, and that's when I started doing more self-training, but I was still sparring with good quality opponents. You know, I'd go train with pro boxers. I'd even travel around different areas, going to taekwondo clubs, karate clubs, just to spar with people, get plenty of sparring, and that's how it was for quite a while, you know. And then started fighting for the CKO, and then that's when I had me first of many fights with Billy Saul.
Wow.
Billy Saul, he's a proper legend on his own. Billy Saul.
100%.
He's so tough. I went to fight him at the first time I fought him, I think it was about 87 then. I fought him in Middlesbrough, obviously in his own town.
Yeah.
And he was so. I mean, I always pride myself on my fitness. He was in incredible shape as well, and we did a 7-round fight. And to me, I beat him fairly comfortably, but to the crowd, they were happy.
They weren't happy.
I won the fight on points, and there was kicking off in the crowd. They weren't too happy, and I know Billy didn't like it as well. And then this sort of started the rivalry between us both, you know. We fought in total. We fought 5 times.
No way.
I won 4 times, and to be honest, on the time when I lost, that is the one fight where I thought I definitely won that fight. You know, some other ones were pretty close. We had some good scraps together. We fought full contact rules. We fought kickboxing with low kicks and throws, which weren't a good fight because it was during the summertime. I was full of hay fever. It was really warm weather. We both got, you put the Vaseline on. Try throwing something when you got Vaseline on and you're slipping.
Yeah. So it wasn't the cleanest of fights.
Yeah, it was terrible, and we fought 5 times, and I won 4. But Billy, at that time, it was so serious. You know, when we fought each other, he hated me. I mean, now we're good mates. You know, we've got respect for each other and that. But yeah, he gave me some really tough fights, did Billy.
5 fights. That's a lot of times to be fighting one person.
I was the sort of person, you see, who if somebody beat me, I would want to fight him again just to prove a point. I'd have to fight him again. Which also takes me to my first British title.
Okay.
I won that in 85. I fought a guy called Tony Birchall from Warrington. He was promoted by Paul Finn. Paul Finn used to do a lot of work with Phil Mayo with CKO. And Tony Birchall, I first fought him. I think it was a short notice fight. I think it was down in London or something. And we fought 5 rounds, and I beat him fairly comfortably, really. And then at a later time, I got a phone call saying, "Do you want to fight for British title for CKO?" So I said, "Yeah." I said, "Who's my opponent?" I said, "Tony Birchall." So I was up for it because I'd beat him already. So I had confidence. So I fought Tony Birchall in Warrington on one of their own shows, and I thought I'd done enough to beat him, but it ended up being a draw. So we ended up having a rematch. So this is something I'm fighting now 3 times, you see. So we had a rematch at Walsall.
For the British title again.
Yeah, we fought for the British title again, and Les Roberts, a guy called Les Roberts, put the show on, and I fought him over 7 rounds, and then this time I got it. So I was British champion in, I think, about 85.
How did that feel, Phil? Top of the mountain.
Felt good. Yeah, it felt good. It felt good having a British title. But then, you know, because of my confidence, I've got this thing about with confidence. I won the British title, but I still didn't feel comfortable as a British champion. You know, I wanted to prove it by defending the title as well. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel happy until I fought somebody else now and defended it, and that's what I did. You know, I defended it a few times and I was successful. Then eventually I lost it, and then I got it back again. You know, and it was things like that. I had that all the time. Again, it's back to that up and down, losing, winning, losing, winning. Yeah. You know, that's how things went for me. You know, and then during the 80s, a friend of mine, Shabir Akhtar.
Yeah, TAGB.
You know, yeah. We've always been good mates. I mean, we've been good mates for back in the days when I trained with George Wellington. He said, "Do you fancy coming over to Manchester with me?" I said, "I'm going to go to Master Skens in Thai boxing." Well, I'd done Thai boxing back in the 70s. I actually took part in some weekend courses with Master Toddy. Wow. He had these weekend courses at Blackpool where he trained all weekend. He just did Thai boxing for a full weekend. So I thought, I've got to get back into this because I love the Thai boxing. It was really good. So I went to Master Skens about 86, 87, and Shabby only stayed for a while. It didn't last long. He stopped going. So when he stopped going, I continued going over on train or on in a car. You know, over to Manchester. Go there once a week, train with Master Sken.
Was Sandy there at the time?
Yes, there was Sandy. There was all the top names. There was Sandy,
the Harrisons,
Oliver and Humphrey Harrison, Phil Nurse. I mean, Phil Nurse is in the What Gym in America now, in New York. You had all these. They were like cream of the crop. You know, the best fighters. The thing is, though, obviously, it weren't full contact no more. We were doing Muay Thai. And have you done low kicks yourself? You had to experience it yourself.
Yeah.
It's painful, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, when you first do it, when you're used to kicking above the waist.
Yeah.
And I went there, and the scary thing for me was also because when I went to Master Skens, I'd had about over 20 fights, and I found out I was one of the most experienced ones fighting wise there. And I thought, I know everybody's gonna have it in for me now. They're all me beating me, and when I went, I couldn't get the hang of blocking the low kicks. It was just so unnatural to me, checking a low kick with your shin. And also at Master Skens, at that time, we never sparred with shin pads on. You never wore shin pads. They were all bone to bone. And I used to go home at night. I wouldn't get home, till maybe 12 at night, or if I missed my last train, I'd have to get a connection with a bus, and I'd be home about 1 o'clock in the morning.
Jeez.
And I get home, get in the bath. My wife, Sandra, she'd see my legs and say, "Why do you do this?" And my legs, all my shin, there were bumps everywhere, they were black and blue. And she just couldn't understand it. And I had bad shins for about 6 months before, start picking up and getting a bit more conditioning. But I still found it hard. I'd had like, you're talking 9-10 years of doing sparring where you kick above waist. And then now I'm doing the opposite, where you can kick to legs and knee people. And
so in this transition period where you're moving over to the tight, are you still competing at this point?
I was still competing, but I'll keep competing full contact.
Right.
Because when it was because I took fights anywhere and I'd fight anyone, I was getting paid as well. Going back to the 80s, even before I was champion, some of the fights I was getting offered like £100, £150, £200.
A lot of money back in the day.
Yeah, got a lot of money back then. So I was getting paid for fighting full contact. I was getting paid for quite a lot of fights I had. So when I went to Master Skens, obviously Thai boxing, different set of rules altogether. It's like comparing rugby and football.
Yeah.
Both play the above, but different. It's a lot different.
Yeah.
And when I was at Master Skens, I still continued having kickboxing fights because of the money, really. I knew if I fought Thai boxing, I won't be getting paid nothing, and probably have bad legs for about 4 weeks or something like that. I eventually had a Thai boxing fight through Master Sken. My first fight were 5 rounders straight away. I went in at deep end, went over to Dublin. No, not Dublin, sorry, Belfast. I fought a guy there called Ian Harris, I think it was Ian Harrison. And I think he was ranked like within top 5 in world for kickboxing. But the thing is, it was like me, he was a kickboxer having his first sort of Thai fight.
Okay.
So neither of us were Thai fighters. We were kickboxers having this first Thai fight together. And it was a really tough guy. Before the fight even started, in the changing rooms, Master Sken was massaging my legs, getting me ready, getting me warmed up before the fight. And I'd got a whopping great bruise on my shin, and I'd received that during training, and I could not get rid of it. It was killing me. Just slightest touch, it hurt. So what I did is, went out to fight with touch gloves, the first thing I did was I just run at my opponent and whacked him with the hardest kick I could throw with that bad leg, and then that numbed it.
Yeah.
So, I think the pain was that intense that I never felt pain again. I won that fight. I won that fight in Ireland. But my first taste of Thai boxing, my legs, I was walking around like Robocop. And the day after the fight, Master Sken were also performing a seminar in Belfast. And I had to take part in the seminar, obviously, because I was a student. So I was like making out that there weren't much wrong with my legs, but I was in agony all the time. And it took a long time to get over that fight. I never fought Thai boxing again because I was still into my kickboxing. I still love my boxing as well. You see, mixing my boxing with my kicks. I felt when I started doing kneeing and all that, he sort of took away my boxing skills. You know,
Yeah.
it's a different ball game. But yeah, as I progressed, I took one or two more in the 80s. I think I had about 2, maybe 3 low kick fights. Kickboxing rules with low kicks.
So that was a nice transition between the full contact, which is kicked above the waist, and obviously you've done the Thai boxing. That must have been a nice rule set for you.
That was a nice rule set, yeah. To be honest with you, if K1 had come out if there were K1 in the probably 90s in England, I think I'd have gone for that. You know, in the early 90s when I was still fighting, I think that'd have been a nice sort of system for me. But I enjoyed the kickboxing with low kicks. That were good for me. That I enjoyed that, you know, because I used to exploit people's styles as well, because I'd had a taste of Thai boxing and a taste of full contact.
You understood both.
Yeah, I understood both, and so if I got somebody who were like basically just a kickboxer and never done Thai, I could tell straight within seconds. I knew when I was fighting them. So if they'd not done Thai, and I could tell straight away. I knew they couldn't block properly, so then I'd exploit them with low kicks and that. Now if it's somebody who'd done Thai, that were different. I knew a lot of these who'd done Thai they were more square on with the style. There was a square on stance, so I'd use my side kick.
Yeah,
but you got to be careful when you're doing a side kick on a Thai fighter, because if you got someone who does Thai boxing, the round kicks that they throw eventually will get you. You know, you have a massive sore leg.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure your legs are conditioned. But yeah, I exploited it, and I also used my normal boxing, my boxing experience. I took advantage of that as well. So I knew how to play the game, you know. And also by this time, I'd say by the 90s, start of the 90s, I was getting that confidence then as well. You know, earlier on, we was talking about the psychological side. You know, you meet up in the ring, you're staring and all that. I started playing games then. You know, I was that sure of myself then. I used to play games with people. You know, if I got someone who was really aggressive, you know, depending on what mood I was in, I'd play around. I'd like sometimes I'd just glare back at him just to wind him up.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd start smiling at him, you know, or other times I'd play the nervous one. I'd be looking everywhere but to them. I'd be looking all around the oil and everything. And then I'd touch gloves. Then as soon as I come out, I'd just go in and just batter them. You know, I just knew. I think it's just experience. You just know with certain people what to do.
So Phil, do you feel like that you needed to have almost like an alter ego, like a different persona to be able to play a different game with your opponent's heads?
Yeah, definitely. I tell you, there's something I used to do. My wife used to go mental at this. I used to deliberately buy clothes that were a bit too big for me, and I'd turn up at shows with like a jacket on what's a bit bigger than it should be. I would do things like that, you know, to make me look bigger.
Yeah.
I would play games like that, you know. I'd do like in the changing rooms, because you know yourself, you thought yourself. Sometimes you're in the same changing room as the guy you're going to be fighting.
Yeah.
You know, when you're warming up. And so what I would do is I would deliberately warm up and do everything all southpaw. You know,
Plant a seed.
Yeah, I would do it all the time. I would warm up southpaw. Things like I'd do things like that. Yeah, I'd also like say, yeah, wear clothing what's way too big for me to make me look a lot broader and you know, and stuff like that. I'd just totally mess around with people's heads, you know, and I'd like obviously doing stare down bit and all that. I remember once when I fought a guy, Darren Evans, he was one of Paul Ennis's fighters back in the early 90s. Darren went on to be European champion for WK. Darren Evans is a really, really nice guy, and the first time we fought, we'd already been mates for about 2 or 3 years, always seen each other at shows. So when I got offered this fight to fight him, I didn't really want to do it because he was just such a nice lad. But I took the fight, and anyway, I remember on this day we got weighed in, not seeing each other, and I went through these like double opening doors. I went through one door, coming the other way with Darren Evans, and I didn't know what to do, whether to speak or not. I thought, I'm not speaking to him because I'm fighting him in a bit, and I just stared at him. And then it was funny how we both sort of looked at each other. We were both turning, and we could not get his eyes off each other, and neither of us spoke. You know, and then when we went to fight each other, and we fought 3 rounds that were, I think we were in West Bromwich, I think it was, something like that. And yeah, he bust my ribs. He bust my ribs in this fight. I beat him. I think he bust my ribs in the second round. And I knew there was something more bad. But I carried on, you see, and I beat him. And yeah.
Did you have, you know, like, is an interesting thing. So, you're a nice guy. Everyone knows you're a nice guy, and you were playing these psychological games with your opponent to get the edge, the psychological edge. But did you have that spite in the ring, or was it just an act?
Yeah, I had that.
Have you had that killer instinct?
I did. As time went on, I think I had that killer instinct as I went on. You know, I'd say more in 90s. Before that time, like during the 80s, I felt like I wasted a lot of things what I did in my fights. I should have done more, been more aggressive. You know, I had that killer instinct more then. You know, I didn't. But in the 90s, I were more. I'd say I were more aggressive then. Yeah, I think the changing point for me was when I started doing a few low kick fights. The low kick fights, obviously, you get hurt a lot more there because you're getting kicked in your legs, blocking bare shins and all that. That was a good turning point for me because it made me more aggressive. If I fought low kick rules, I would straight away, I would go into the kill. And it was like, I went in that kill or be killed attitude, you know. So, for instance, I got offered a world title fight in Portugal in, I think it was 1991 or 1992. A guy called Jose Pinner, a very strong fighter. And I went over with Paul Ingram and Oliver Harrison. He was working in my corner as well. And I went over there. The weight for the fight was supposed to be 57. I think it was 57 or 57.2 kilo. And for, I think, like featherweight world title for WK. Anyway, it gets on the scales. I got on first. I think I weighed about 52 kilos.
Jeez.
I thought, there's no way I can weigh 52 kilos. I'm not that light. Jose came in. Straight away, you could see how big he was. Like proper broad. Legs were right thick. And he weighed 57 kilos.
Oh, gosh.
So I knew something with scales, you know.
So what, by your estimations, what would you say he was?
Well, yeah. Well, there were 5 kilo difference between us, so you're talking, it's a lot of weight, especially world title standard as well.
Yeah.
So what happened? I questioned it with Paul Ingram because he was obviously running the WK at that time.
Yeah.
And he couldn't see a problem with it, so I thought, I'm not going to turn the fight down anyway because the place was packed. He's a big hero in Portugal as well, Jose Pinner. And I thought, well, I'm not just going to say, I'm not fighting now and go back home. You know, they've got to send me back home. You know.
Yeah.
So I just got on with the fight, and my plan were to take it easy first half of the fight, wait for him to get tired, and then step it up because I've always been fitness always been good. the thing with this were the world title fight, low kicks, kickboxing. It was 12 rounds, and anyway, first round I was doing fairly well. He was pretty strong, but I was dancing around him and picking him off. And then all of a sudden, I just remember waking up on floor. My head felt great, but I couldn't get my body off the floor. Well, like as if somebody glued me.
Jeez.
And I could hear the beat count to 3, 4. So I've been out for like a couple of seconds, and I got up, felt good, but we called the fight off. I'd been KO'd, and so he knocked me out third round. Never been KO'd before in my life. I'd never realised how much of a clinical experience that is being KO. Weird.
Yeah.
But my advice to anybody is never ever give 5 kilos away, especially in a world title fight.
Did you regret that?
I do and I don't. I always put things down to experience, good or bad. I always put things down to experience, and you learn from it. It was a bad experience, and it was crazy giving away 5 kilos. But I do feel a lot of fighters get put in this position when they go abroad as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of money being spent on people in there when they go abroad to fight, and there's a lot of pressure put on that fighter.
Yeah.
And if you just suddenly say, "Oh well, I'm not fighting," that shows in ruins as well. So it's like, I mean, today I don't think that would go on as bad today, but back then you wouldn't have had like a reserve opponent for him. It would have been just me, and that's it. So I just got on with it.
And I suppose, was that your only world title fight?
No, I had another one in later years. I had a European title fight a few years later. I think it was about 1993 or 5. I fought then for a world title, not world title, so European title for WK. Chris Pemberton, they called him. He was a really tall opponent. I'd seen him fight before on TV actually, when WK were promoting a lot of kickboxing in the 90s on TV. And I'd seen him fight on there, and he was fighting about 2 weights above what we fought at.
Where was he from?
He was from Wales. What happened, I wanted to fight Darren Evans for the European title. Well, obviously I beat Darren Evans in the past. I beat him twice actually. I wanted to fight him because he got the European title, and but for whatever reason he retired, so the title went vacant, and I was supposed to fight some other guy from, I think it was Germany or France. They pulled out, and then they got Chris Pemberton to fight me. We fought in Barnsley, 10-round fight, European title for WK, and he gave me one of the hardest fights I've had. We started off okay. He was a really, really good boxer, and I think it was the second round I actually KO'd him. I set him up with a fast combo, two punch combo, and then I think I threw like a left, and as I threw it, I let my leg go at the same time.
Yeah.
Distracting with
yeah.
hand, and then go with kick, because my left leg I can just whip it over dead easy even now. And I caught him with a kick and straight on the neck, and it went out. And the referee gave what I thought was a pretty slow count. And it was like, I think it counted about 8 or 9. It was just sort of sitting up, so he had no chance of getting up in time. But anyway, they let him get up and let him continue with the fight. And so
Jeez.
I had a massive adrenaline rush, because then I'm trying to knock him out, and I've seen this before with people where once they've been put down and then they get back up, they seem to be even tougher to knock out afterwards. And this was the case with Chris. Oh man, I I hit him with everything but the kitchen sink, and he would not go down after that. And literally, after about 3 rounds, I realised I was burning myself out.
Yeah.
And and he was still there with it, and I could not hurt him. I could not hurt him one bit. And it ended where the end of the fight, the decision went to me. But you know, I felt really I should have won by KO. It's just like that count was so slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gave me one of the hardest fights. But I was glad because I knew I'd earned it then. I knew I'd earned that European title. And then you're talking, I think that was about 90, like I said, 93 or 95. Another great time I had was in Belfast again. I got asked over to Belfast. For a guy called Stuart Kirk.
Stuart.
Over there, Billy Murray.
Yeah.
Billy Murray was pro on this show. He'd had me over before a few times.
Pro Kick.
Yeah, that's it, from Pro Kick Gym. Yeah, he had me fight William Ferry. I fought William Ferry over there, beat him. He was another great fighter. And then I got asked to fight Stuart Kirk. And Stuart Kirk was really tough. And I fought on this show. They had some fighters over from Holland, like an international show. And the first time we fought, 5 rounds, I beat Stuart easy. It was a really easy fight for me. I played around with him and that, you know, good fight. And then we got asked over again, I think later that year, I think it were. But this one was going to be on Sky TV as well, on Sky Sports. And I think it was at the Ulster Halls. And massive venue, brilliant venue. And I was so happy fighting there because I knew Barry McGuigan had fought there in years gone by, you know. I was proud to fight at the same place where he fought. And this time though, the Stuart Kirk, what turned up this time was a lot tougher to fight than the first time round. He's fought me once, so he knew now. He was more confident, you see. He weren't just scared of me. And but we had a really good fight. I still beat him comfortably, but he kept coming forwards all the time, trying to knock me out. And if somebody comes forward to try and knock me out, it suits me, you see, because I know I've seen you fight a lot of times as well. When you're a technical fighter, you've got somebody who comes at you trying to knock you out. You see all the weaknesses.
They play into your hands, don't they?
Yeah, they play into your hands. Yeah, that was always my game. You see, I was always very fit. And if somebody couldn't knock me out in those first few rounds, I always knew I was going to win the fight.
Yeah.
And that's what I did with Stuart, really. I let him come at me in my early rounds. He shook me at one bit. He got me a really good uppercut in the fight. And I remember that sort of like made him come at me even more then for about a round or two. But I was playing him then, you said. I cleared my head. I was okay. Yeah. And I beat him. Yeah, but that was a really proud moment fighting over there, you know, because it was on Sky TV and everything as well. And then the problem was for me then in the 90s, by that time I had about probably 45 fights by then, you see, which were a lot in England, you know.
Yeah.
Most people about 20 fights, then they retire and stuff, you know. But yeah, I had about 45 fights more then, and then I was having trouble getting fights and getting opponents. You know, I was taking fights for 50 quid, you know, because I was still getting paid.
Get out there, yeah. Just
get out there and get a fight. I was fighting anybody. I was fighting people 3-round fights with people, you know.
And what was this, mid to late 90s?
Yeah, mid to late 90s, yeah. And then I did some low kick fights. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember Trevor Tacey?
Yeah. TNT Tacey. Yeah.
He was a very good fighter. He was very tough. We fought low kicks once in Stafford. You used to have a lot of shows there. Val Denton and Wolverhampton crew. They were all fighting there. Had some good fights there. Fought Joey James. Had a draw with Joey James. But Trevor was a good fight. Fought low kick rules. I think that ended up being a draw. I'm not sure. But yeah, like I say, I had a few gaps then. And it were hard training for me fights then, because my opponents kept pulling out. They couldn't get people to fight me, and I was getting mad because it weren't like I'm knocking people out. It was just my experience. What sort of
You're a hard night's work for anyone at that point, though, aren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I think also. I mean, I've seen some of my fights, and you know, when you'll have your fight, you'll have done the same. You'll know what I'm on about. You have your fight. You really enjoy your fight, and then when you watch it back on, say, a video, I'm very critical of myself, you see. So I'd watch my own fight back on a video, and that weren't like the fight where I just had in the ring. You know, when I'm in the ring fighting, to me, we're exciting and all that. And then when I watch my fight from a different viewpoint, like on a video, you were like, I weren't putting enough aggression in there. I weren't doing this. I weren't doing that. And then I thought about it from crowd's point of view. You know, thinking, well, the crowd, I know it's like when you're watching a fight, you want to see knockouts, you want to see loads of action and all that. So now I used to play chess a lot with my opponents. Mm-hmm. So for me that was exciting, but for the crowd watching, unless you're a purist, you know, some people it's a bit boring. They want to see people getting hurt and getting knocked out.
Yeah, I think that's the thing though. Like when you get a kickboxing crowd, like a knowledgeable kickboxing crowd, they 100% appreciate what you're doing.
Basically, yeah. But the public, they want to see knockouts, they want to see people getting hurt and things like that, you know. But yeah, I had trouble getting fights, and then I think about 1996, 97, Paul Hennessy put on the Quest tour. You was on the same show, wasn't it?
That was actually Howard Brown. Howard Brown put it on.
Was it? Yeah.
I was due to fight in it, and I couldn't. He was at a weight I couldn't make.
There were a few that couldn't make the weights. But that was a fantastic show, well promoted. I absolutely loved it because I was a big fan of the original K1 shows, you know, in Japan.
Yeah. The 8-man tournaments, yeah.
Oh, they were mental. And so, yeah, I loved this. I think the people in my lineup, Billy Saul, wasn't it, you see? And all I wanted to do was have my final fight with Billy Saul again. I had it in my head that if I can beat my opponents, my dream fight would have been Billy Saul in the final, because I think we're like £1,000 for winner. The runner-up I think got £500. You got like I think we all got like £100 or £200 for competing, and then if you won your round, you got like a bonus for each round you went to. And you're ever so good. And
who was in your 8-man? Remind me.
There was Billy Saul. There's a guy called Leroy Atkinson from Master Toddy's in Manchester. Now, I didn't want to fight him because, apart from him being good, the thing is, we're both sparring partners.
Right.
Master Toddy. And he was such a nice guy as well. I didn't really want to fight him because we were mates. And then the other guys, I forgot some of the other ones were, but they're all champions at different things and that. But it was mad. My first fight, I fought a guy from London. He replaced a fighter called Peter Belmar. Now, Peter Belmar was really tough, very strong, and good at knocking people out. Luckily for me, he weren't there that day, so they had to send somebody else down instead to Birmingham. So I fought this guy from his gym, beat him easily in the first fight. So then that made me go out in the semi-finals. Then you see, my next opponent was a guy called Tony Basnet from, I think he's from Liverpool, Tony, and he went on to be like world Muay Thai champion and that. And we fought each other, but I gassed out in the fight, and so it was a close fight, but he beat me. And it ended up where he went into the finals against Billy Saul. Got to the finals. I was so frustrated because I would have loved to be, fought Billy in the finals. Even if they beat me, it wouldn't have mattered, just to fight him in the finals. And I was so pleased because he won. He beat Tony Basnet and he won. And There's a story even behind this show, because 2 weeks before the show, somebody pinched my car and I couldn't get to training. So all my training for this show was basically doing shadow boxing in the bedroom. I'm doing like 10 rounds of shadow boxing with a pair of dumbbells in my hands, just punching and doing like so many thousand kicks, kicking into the net.
Yeah.
I couldn't kick no bags, pads, and nothing, because I couldn't get to a gym because I got no transport. So yeah, it was crazy. And I always felt like if my car hadn't got pinched, I probably would have just nicked it and got into finals against Billy. That would have been my dream fight.
The thing about those 8-mans though is, like, it's not always the best fighter that wins, is it? It's the person that has the easiest route through and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I liked about them, because they're unpredictable. Because I really thought, like Leroy Atkinson, who I know from Master Toys, I thought he'll do really well in, and I think he got beat in the first fight, so it weren't how they're always unpredictable, those 8-mans, but I do like them for that reason. And what I did love is, when I had my first fight, your adrenaline's still high.
Yeah.
And so when you're told you're going to fight again, you're like, it's a good feeling, because you don't feel nervous about the next fight.
There's other fighters in those 8-mans that really struggle because they're the 3-round format. Like, you might be used to a 7-round or a 10-round fight, and now you're having to drop pace-wise to a 3-round pace.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew, because I knew what I did is training up for this show. I deliberately went at a fast pace whenever I sparred with people. Obviously I sparred with boxers a lot, so I would deliberately go really aggressive, and that from the first round, just sparring with them, so that I get into that routine of doing that when I took part in the tournament. But it does mess with your fitness though. When you're doing an 8-man, because if you're going to get to the finals, obviously you got your quarter final, your semi, and then the final. So that's 3 fights. It's the adrenaline rush. It takes a lot of fitness out of your body. And that's, like I say, when I did the second fight, when I got beat, I didn't realise until after the first round how much the first fighter took it out of me. So I didn't have a lot in tank. I probably would have been better if I had my car pinched, though. That would have helped as well.
Yeah. So that was what year was that?
I think that was 97, the Quest 2. And then I defended my European title, I think same year, I think it were. Cash Gill gave me a call and said, do you want to, we've got a lad who wants to fight you, Paul Murphy. Paul Murphy was a really good fighter. And another one was tall as well. And I didn't mind tall fighters, actually, because I'd been used to fighting tall fighters. And so I got asked to fight on Cash's show at Bourneville in Birmingham.
Yeah.
All I could think of what Bourneville chocolate said, with Birmingham. And
I think I was at that show. I think
it was a show. It was good. I've still got it on video, some of that show. It was good. But it was a 10-round fight. But to be honest with you, I think I was burnt out. Like I said, I've been struggling over years, getting opponents, people pulling out, messing me about. And I didn't have the same hunger training for this one. And so when I went in, I did all right first round or two. And then he was pretty strong as well, was Paul. Very strong fighter. And I just couldn't move up a gear. I started off steady, and what I was intending to do was move up a few gears and then increase it as I go along in fight. So that's how it used to work for me before. This time it never worked. I couldn't get out of first gear, and it was just beating me, each time. And so I lost my title. So I won it. I didn't defend it for 2 years because I couldn't get no opponents. And then when Paul Murphy beat for me, he beat me. So that was a bit depressing, but at the same time I was glad to just no longer have the European title. I know it sounds a bit weird, but it's good having these titles, but then you're the king of the castle.
Yeah.
I like to be the one who's after the king of the castle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because when you're at the top, you've got nowhere else to go. You know, and from 1985 right through to retiring in 1998, I'd always had a British title. I'd had a British title for full contact, and I also had one for the WK for low kicks as well.
Wow.
But I got me WK low kick title in 1991, but nobody challenged me for it. So I held on to it right up to the finish in 1998. I couldn't get nobody to fight me. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So was that your last fight against Murphy?
No, my last fight, I got offered a fight against a guy called Marco Costagulta in Italy, and that was in 1998. That was supposed to be 12 rounds low kicks. Now, building up to this fight, I knew in my head the Italians. I knew they were good with the boxing, but not good with low kicks. So I felt confident with my boxing because I've always trained with pro boxers. I'd always sparred with him, so I felt confident with my boxing. And I thought, he's gonna be no good with low kicks. I'll be all right here. And we got there. And I remember the day before we did the weigh-in. It was taller than me as usual. And then I weighed in. I weighed in okay, me, because the weight for this one was I think it was 59 point something kilo, which I could do dead easy because I'm normally fighting at 57, 56. So I made that without even trying to lose weight. And but you know something, we were all sat eating. They got a load of food out for us after the weigh-in. So me and Sandra was on his own on this table, and there were Marco Costagulta with all his friends and that. They were on this big table, and it was like a big feast for them. I'm not kidding, they was eating forever. And we had something to eat. We left the room. They were still eating when we left, about an hour later. I couldn't believe it. And yeah, we fought the day after, and trust gloves, went out. I thought, I'll get ready for his boxing, and pow, he got me on the leg, a leg kick, and I thought, wow, that hurt. And carries on, got me again, and I panicked, and my low kicks didn't work, and he blocked them okay, so I started using the side kick. The side kick didn't work as well as it had done in the past, because all he did was just catch me on the side of the leg. You know, that's what I mentioned a long time ago. It's okay doing the side kick on someone who does tie kicks, but them tie kicks will keep on coming. And once they get you on that leg, they'll damage your thigh, then your side kick sort of slows down. And that's what happened with me. He kept battering me. And I think I got to about third round. I got dropped with leg kicks. I went down. And then he got me again later on. He got me a punch on jaw. That lifted me off my feet. But it was like a flash knockdown. I weren't shook up or anything. I just jumped back up. And then carries on. And he got me again with low kicks, but he was around my knee. And I thought, if I keep letting him catch me here, I'm going to end up with a broken leg. And I thought, it's not worth it. So when he put me down for the third time, I stayed down. And fight got stopped. And that was it. And then after that, I decided, that's it now. I'm done with fighting. You know, I'm not going to go back into fighting again. And I stuck to that decision as well. You know, even though I wanted to later on, you always get that feeling again. You know.
Yeah.
It never goes away, does it?
And how old were you when you retired?
I was 37. I was almost 38.
Which is quite old for a bantam featherweight,
as well, because the heavyweights is not so bad, but when you're like my weight, 9 stone, it's quite old. But to be honest with you, if I'd have been having more regular fights, I know I would have carried on till 40 easy, or even longer. You know what I mean? So I thoroughly enjoyed it. You know, everything what I've done. I've had some great times and met a lot of really nice people as well, you know, and got memories for life. You know, that's what's important as well, you know.
It's funny because like just hearing your story now, it's like all of your, well, I wouldn't say all your named opponents, but you had them earlier in your career rather than later. How do you think you would have coped with the likes of Howard Brown, Sandy Holt, Troy Dorsey, like in the latter end of your career when you were at your peak?
Yeah, I think Howard was one person who I did want to fight again, but like I would have rather fought him. Like when he beat me, it was way too early for me, like a lamb to the slaughter. I would have liked to have fought him maybe 5-6 years later, you know, or yeah, maybe even about 95. If he'd have been going on longer as well, a bit longer than that, you know, I'd have fought him then. I'd have felt more comfortable. But Troy Dorsey, obviously, he went into boxing. His boxing got really good.
Yeah.
And I think even then, I just done okay with him. But I mean, he was unbelievable. You know, he had really good kicking ability and his boxing, and he could mix it. He could blend it together as well. You know, what I don't like seeing it even now, is when I see someone who's good at kicking, good at boxing, but they only do one or the other. They don't, you know,
they don't integrate both. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, you know what I mean. He could do both. He could mix both together, which is what I liked. You know. And Sandy, I think Sandy would have been a good fight as well. But Sandy did fight at an heavyweight category to me as well. You know where? I fought at feather. I think he fought at. I think sometimes he's fought at super feather. He's fought at lightweight as well. So he'll like a division or two heavier than me. But Sandy was a good fighter as well.
Who would you say that is the best fighter that you've ever fought? Would it be Troy?
I'd say probably Howard's been one of the best ones. Howard, Troy Dorsey. Yeah, Troy Dorsey, because Troy Dorsey, everybody knows Troy Dorsey anyway. But I mean, Howard.
There was talk of Howard fighting Troy, wasn't there? But it never come off. But that was always a big thing when I was a kid. It's like, is Howard going to fight Troy Dorsey but it never come off. Yeah,
I was supposed to fight Troy Dorsey again as well, because I was supposed to have a rematch with him in Texas, but that was the same. It never came off. You know, I've had that before where I've had been told, "Oh, do you want to fight so and so?" Yeah, and I could have fought in Japan. I was told I had a fight through Master Toddy. I thought this how I won the British WK title in 1991 or 2, I think it were. He said, "Look, if you win the title," he says, "I'll get you a world title in Japan against their champion." I thought, I'd always wanted to go visit Japan.
Yeah.
So they got me an opponent, and this is one of those crazy times for me with my reputation. I went for about 3 or 4 opponents before they actually could get somebody to turn up on the night. They had to ship somebody in from Ireland because the other opponents, each person kept pulling out. They wouldn't fight me. So I ended up finding an Irish guy, and I took everything out on him. I just pasted him, you know. I just went crazy.
Wanted your flight to Japan, didn't you?
Yeah, I wanted my flight to Japan, so I trained so hard for that fight. I just went crazy on whoever put in front of me, and this poor guy from Ireland, I did him first round. I did my usual trick as well, where I let him come at me first, so I let him do all the attacking, and I just wait for the moment. I just pop him one, and then put him down. I was just too strong for him anyway, and but that fight never come off. Japan. I got promised one in somewhere else in America, and I was told if you come over, your flights will all be paid for. You better go around Disneyland and all that. And then same again, that fell through. All the really good ones, they were just too good to be true.
But Phil, you did get to fight in Bourneville?
Yeah, I got to fight in Bourneville, yeah. And Cash Gill never bought me any chocolate either.
No. So can you remember your final fight record?
It's something like, if had something like 56 fights. I've probably lost about 15, 16 fights. Had a couple of draws. So it's not like a perfect record, you know. But yeah, it's about 56. There's probably some I've missed up as well. But
yeah. It's an incredible record.
Yeah, I just think I enjoyed every minute of it. You know, I mean, like I said, I've been through good times and bad times. I've been ripped off at shows. You know, I've had fights where I know I've won fight, but they'll give it to other person because it's been an away fight for me.
Yeah,
you know, and I've never gone mad in the ring or complained. I just got on with it and
took it on the chin and on to the next one.
Yeah, that's what I've done all the time, and he's served me well really in life as well, doing that sort of thing. You know, when chips are down, you just pick yourself back up and carry on. You've got to, haven't you, really? You know.
So Phil, amazing fighting career, but tell us a little bit about your coaching journey.
Yeah, for me, coaching, actually, going back to early days when I did Laugar, I think I've been there about two years at the Laugar club teaching Kung Fu, where they were teaching Kung Fu, and the instructor had to leave, and there was no way to run the club. So I was suddenly left with this club to teach. I wasn't even a brown belt at the time either, and I was teaching this club. So that was my first sort of experience of teaching people things. And then from there, it went on to, I did an extra session for the Laugar club, but what I did is I mixed it. I did like half of it was Kung Fu, then the other half I do kickboxing. I teach kickboxing. So I got into coaching, not intentionally. I got into it by mistake at first, you know, because somebody couldn't run the club, so I helped out. And it went on from there. You know, I opened a club in Maltby in Rotherham now, where I live, and I've been running it ever since. It's not a massive club. I don't have loads of fighters or anything like that, but everybody really enjoys it. You know, I teach mainly Thai boxing now, but in the early days I was teaching kickboxing in my classes. I had quite a few students who did well in fights as well. I had a guy called David Lockwood. He went to all the Waco Pro kickboxing title for quite a while. Then I've been successful with a couple of girls who fought as well. Ellie Murphy and Jade Kellerman. Jade was a really good fighter. A young girl I had, really good fighter as a kid. I used to take her to any fight I taught, she'd fight lads. She said, you know, I loved it. But to be honest with you, my coaching, I do one-to-ones, and it's not about making people champions either. I just want them to feel good, you know what I mean? So I think people can be champions in life, can't they, as well as being fighters in a ring.
Absolutely.
And I like doing that. You know, I've got a right to just making people feel more better. That's all about themselves. You know, through using martial arts and fitness and stuff like that. But I've also been blessed with having a lot of good instructors as well. You know, over the years. Like I said earlier, I had Master Toddy. I did train with him for about a couple of years before he left for America. I was coached by Master Sken for about 3.5 years. And then from there, when Master Toddy left, I was with Master A for quite a while, for a good few years, Master A. And then had a bit of a gap. And then I got in touch with John Pop at Kit Fontic Gym in Leeds. John Pop was like a breath of fresh air for me. I trained with him in about 10 years ago, I think it were. I'd heard about him already, and I went to train with him, and absolutely amazing. You know, he spars with you, and he can spar with anybody, even top fighters, and he can still play around with you. But he got a really nice personality as well. You know, very friendly.
Yeah.
And I trained with quite a few Thais. I slightly lost my roots with kickboxing and stuff. I still enjoy kickboxing, but I think over the years I've got more involved with the sort of Thai style of fighting, you know, low kicking, and I've enjoyed all that. But I've been gifted, like I say, having some of these top instructors, you know, like I mean, I got to train with one of my heroes years ago. Trained with Benny Akides. Got to train with him once on a seminar. I met and trained with Ramon Deckers. You know, proper legend. He's like, even now, one of my, you know, favourites with the Dutch Thai boxers. I got to train with him about, I think, 3 times. I got to train with Ramon Deckers, and he was such a nice guy. You know, you see him in the ring like a beast. Yeah. But outside the ring, he's really friendly and down to earth. No ego.
Like most fighters, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, I remember years ago, I trained with, I had a guy called Chanoi. I trained with Chanoi from Thailand. Chanoi came over, he's teaching at the Bad Company gym. And as soon as I knew he was training there, I went to train with him, having one-to-ones, because Chanoi, he had beat Ramon Deckers, my favourite fighter. So I got to train with the man who beat the man. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I trained with Chanoi for, I think, a good 3-4 months at Bad Company gym. I would train with him regularly there. I've been lucky just training with so many good people over the years, you know, and even now I feel blessed really with a lot of things what I've done, you know, and people I've met and still meeting even to this day as well, you know.
So what does the future hold for you, Phil?
Well, at the moment now, obviously, it's my health now. So I've had an heart attack, and this is my 4th week now after the heart attack. So
you look incredibly well, can I say?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'm just rebuilding my fitness level. I'm not sure how far I can push myself yet, because I feel good. But I'm just following what doctor's orders are. You know, I'm doing these walks twice a day, and the first week after the heart attack, I was only allowed to walk 5 minutes twice a day. That's it, 5-minute walk, and that's it done. Which is really tough for me, because, you know, I've always been active, and even, I mean, I'm 62, I'm 63 in December. I always train like a fighter, you know. I'm in gym, I'll do my one-to-ones, then I'll do a workout myself for maybe 3/4 an hour to an hour, bag work and everything. And so I've always kept myself in shape. So to be told now, you only can do 5 minutes walking, and then you got to rest, and then do another one later in the day, and then each week add it up extra, you know. It's tough on me. I'm doing 20-minute walks now, and I'm not out of breath or nothing, feel good. So I'm hoping I keep progressing like that, and then hopefully I'm teaching again November time. I'll be teaching again, and then back on track, you know. But it's, I'm wanting now to put some of my fighters now on circuit again, you know. It's sort of like lit a bit of a flame there, I think, for me, you know, doing that. Because at times now, when I go out to shows, people see me maybe judging or commentating at shows. You know, I'm not really active with fighters at shows now. I tend to, you know, I do have a club where people train, but I don't really push them too far into the fighting side, if you know what I mean. You know, I think it's also because I'm old school. You know, there's too many belts being given out, and, you know, there's too many champions. Like, you've only got to travel half a mile, you'll meet a world champion, you'll do it again, another world champion, and it's a thing I don't agree with. I think it's good popularising kickboxing or Thai boxing, whichever sport you do, but I think it's got watered down over the years.
100%.
There's too much of it about, you know, and even to this day, I've got this thing where if I'm going to take my fighters to fight anywhere, I've got to put them on a show where I know the standards got to be high. I don't want them fighting on a show where it's not very good.
Yeah.
Standard. I don't want it to be easy for him. I want him to compete with best fighters, you know, and best standards.
You've still got those old school values, haven't you?
Yeah, because I think a lot of people nowadays, you get a lot of clubs where you see them and they've got all the belts on like wallpaper or on the around the gym, which is good, but I know full well a lot of them, and I don't wish this is disrespect to anyone, but I know some people just every weekend they'll go out and they're paying the £20 to get the championship belt, you know, they pay 20 for them. They guarantee the belt, aren't they, when they come away?
Those that know, though, you know. If you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, but the less said on that, the better. So I don't offend nobody with that. So
there's the Mr. Nice Guy coming out again. So Phil, a question I always ask everyone on Kickboxing Life Stories, and that's, what one bit of advice could you give a young martial artist stroke fighter coming through that's gonna help them to reach their potential?
What I would say is for any young guy out there or girl is get a good instructor. Okay, look at the students as well. Don't just go with an instructor because the instructor is really good. I'd say look at the students as well. You know, if your instructor's been a champion, it doesn't mean that he's a good instructor. You know, find a club where the students that are in the club, they're all good as well. The standards high with the students, because that reflects on the instructor then. I find some people try and go with somebody who, because they've been a champion, they go with them because they think that's it. That's the best person to go with. You know what I mean? It doesn't always work that way, does it? The best coach hasn't always been a champion. The best coach can be somebody who's got no experience of fighting, but he's just a fantastic coach.
Yeah.
I always say go with somebody with a good reputation, but also look at the students in the classes as well. I say you should always look at the students.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, great advice there, to be fair. And I think everyone's got to find a good fit for them, haven't they? It's like, you know, the club that's doing great things in competition and everything else mightn't be the right club for you. You might need a smaller club or an instructor that's got empathy with you and your situation and your story.
Yeah.
So Phil, wrapping things up, anyone you'd like to give a shout out to or a thanks over your years within the sport?
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I mean, there's quite a few people really. I want to thank the people like currently, like John Pop. I see him as being my Thai instructor now. You know, I haven't seen him for a few years now because of the problems with COVID and stuff like that. But I want to thank him for the things he's taught me with Muay Thai in recent times. He's a fantastic instructor. Another guy I want to thank as well is Tony Diaz. Tony Diaz, that guy is really, really nice. He came to me when I was in hospital, when I'd had the heart attack. He came to me within a few days. He was going to a tournament in Derby, and he actually popped into the hospital on the way down to the tournament. He popped in to see me to make sure I was doing okay. And
he's a good egg, Tony, isn't he?
He's a great man. He fetched me some grapes and tangerines and a bottle of Ribena. But yeah, I want to thank him. He, such a nice guy. And I also want to thank Howard Brown as well. And I hope you watch this, because Howard Brown, he actually got in touch with me as well when he heard about me having the heart attack. He also got in touch with me. I've not heard of him for years, and he just got in touch with me out of the blue, and he kept getting in touch every few days to make sure I was okay and everything's going fine with me. You know, and that's a top guy. I still wish I could have beat him when I fought him years ago, but he's such a top guy, and he's a proper legend of kickboxing as well. But yeah, there's lots of people really I could thank over the years. Everyone's played a part in experiences that I've had. You know, I also want to thank my wife as well for putting up with me, because I think we all have that, don't we?
Yeah,
Spite.
absolutely.
We're all get selfish in many ways, and yes, because for me it's always been tunnel vision. It's my martial arts, kickboxing, Thai boxing, and that's been my life all the time. I don't think Sander realised how much we're going to take on, you know. And yeah, even now I'm obsessed with it. As you know, when you've seen my Facebook page, and I'm putting little things on there, old posters, and I've still got them even now.
Phil, it's been absolutely amazing to hear your story. I've been captivated, as I'm sure all our viewers will. All that's left to say is, Phil Glover, Kickboxing Life Stories, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Neil. Been great talking to you as well. I hope everyone enjoyed my story.